Evening, call to order the Town of St. John Plan Commission regular meeting for June 18th, 2025. Would invite all that are able to stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Abernathy, can we get the roll call, please?
Joe Gomez-Stego.
Here.
Rudy Bambick is absent. John Gill.
Here.
Russ Vogel is absent. Justin Nestor.
Present.
Colin Edgeway is absent. Ashley Abernathy present. Adam Decker.
Present.
John Dykstra.
Here.
Bill Manasopoulos.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum and agenda item number 4, item A, May 21st, 2025, public meeting minutes. I assume everybody's had the chance to review those. Any questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 21st, 2025 public meeting minutes as posted.
Second. Motion by Mr. Gill, second by Mr. Gomez-Stego. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye.
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 Do you want to roll call these because we're at 4?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Joe Gomez-Stego.
Present. Oh, here.
Was it an aye?
Aye, yeah, I'm sorry.
John Gill.
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy, yes. Justin Nestor.
Yes. It's not a trick question.
There you
All right, minutes are approved. Agenda item number 5, public hearings. First up, item A, 2025-09 Grace Church, proposed primary plat for a one-lot subdivision located at 13809 West 109th Avenue. Grace Church, applicant. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Max Rajewski with DBG team here on behalf of Grace Church. As the Plan Commission was updated 2 weeks ago, this project is very far along with engineering plans reviewed and approved last month. The primary plat for this one-lot subdivision has also been reviewed and approved. Before the public hearing proceed, I would like to mention 2 items. One, this petition is requesting a waiver from Section 21A-44A, which requires curb and gutter be installed along the fronting road if it does not exist. As was discussed last week's study session, Lake County Highway Department specifically requested this not be installed as the roadway is still a rural cross-section roadway. Our original plan adhered to this section, but we deferred to the request of the Highway Department, which still maintains jurisdiction over 109th. And then second, one potential item of remonstrance we have been informed of is concern for impacts to the ditch, which runs along the northern edge of the property. The site plan underlying this plat specifically minimizes the work in the ditch and the small wetland areas beside it. Our only ditch impacts will be a single utility crossing. No reshaping of the ditch will be performed. More importantly, this project fully adheres to the town's stormwater detention requirements and will improve drainage conditions by restricting storm flow to the ditch during rain events. The property today sheet flows to this ditch with 0 restriction. Proof of this proper design has been verified by the town's engineer. Beyond those 2 items, I'm happy to answer any remaining questions from the commission members or residents. I would otherwise request that the public hearing be opened and appreciate the commission's approval of the primary plat before you. Thank you very much.
All right. Questions, comments from the panel? There being none. Mr. Dykstra?
No, there was one conditional item, which is a final letter from the county on the roadway driveway, but that was expected any day, so.
There's kind of a timing with that one because county would like to see the final plat and the site plan approved, which obviously tonight we're at primary plat, before they'll issue their letter with that. I do have a set of minutes from the meeting that we had at Lake County Highway that went over all those points and what county wants to say. That was approved by both Dwayne Alverson at Lake County and myself as kind of that itemized list and the understanding that a letter will be forthcoming once the site plan is reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission for that letter.
Okay. Subject to that, we'll go ahead and open it up. All right, we do have 2 public hearings tonight, so I'll just let everybody in attendance know. This is an opportunity for any members of the public to come up, speak for or against the proposal. We just need to get name and address once we open it up. And There are quite a few in attendance. There is a 3-minute rule, so I'm going to I'm not going to strictly adhere to that, but I don't want everybody to go on and prevent others from having the chance to come up on any project. And the last thing I would say is that any remonstration for or against the proposal that's before you needs to be kind of limited to that too, please, just for purposes of trying to get through it. So with that, any members of the public who'd like to come up, we'll go ahead and open public hearing. Like I said, I just need your name and address, please.
Good evening, members of the town council. My name is Carla Moreno, and I'm the owner of 10687 in the Greystone subdivision on Moraine Drive. I'm here tonight to express my deep concerns about the proposed construction of Grace Church on the lot near my property. Specifically, I am worried about the impact that the church's planned drainage system which will empty water, rain runoff, and some pumps into the creek or into a retention pond that then drain into the creek running through my land. I will have an already severe erosion of my property. For over a year now, the creek to the rear of my home has been causing significant erosion. When I purchased my house, the builders assured me that the creek was low-lying and would never exceed a few inches of water. However, this has been proven false. During heavy rainfall or snowmelt, the water levels can rise as high as 6 or 7 feet, turning the creek into a fast-moving stream. This has caused severe erosion, washing away my land and creating a steep, dangerous slope that continues to worsen. This erosion is not a minor issue. It's a serious threat. The slope is becoming increasingly unstable, and I'm concerned it could lead to further damage or even become more of a safety hazard for my family. It has already restricted how I can use my property. I had hoped to create a garden and a play area for my children, but the eroding slope makes that impossible. Even simple yard maintenance like mowing has become a dangerous task. If this continues, I fear it will cause serious injury to my loved ones and threaten the foundation of my home. Despite raising this with the builders and the town, no meaningful action has been taken. Now I've learned that the church plans to drain its water and some pumps directly into this same creek directly or by retention pond drainage. Given the current erosion problem, adding more water will undoubtedly make things worse. The increased volume and flow will likely accelerate the erosion, causing even more of my land to disappear and potentially affecting other properties along the creek as well. This isn't about just my property, it's about our community and the environment. The creek is a natural resource that needs responsible management. My neighbor's letter, Patrick Griffin, residing at 10671, highlights how the removal of trees and vegetation during earlier construction, along with existing sump pumps and stormwater sewers draining into the creek, has already altered its natural flow. Adding the church's drainage without safeguards could have serious consequences for the ecosystem and all 7 properties along Moraine Drive. I implore you to take these concerns seriously and reconsider approving the church's construction plans as they stand. Please don't allow this project to move forward without addressing its impact on the creek and our properties. We need a solution that protects our homes, our community, and our environment. Thank you for listening. I hope we can resolve this amicably and preserve the creek for future generations. I'm willing to work with the council, the church, and other stakeholders to find a fair solution that safeguards my property and our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, honorable members of the Town Council. My name is Liliana Brand, and I am a retired homeowner at 10679 Moraine Drive in Greystone subdivision. I'm here tonight to share my serious concerns about the proposed church construction near my property. Specifically, I am worried about how the church's drainage system, whether it empties directly into the creek behind my home or into a retention pond that flows into the creek, will worsen the erosion that's already threatening my land. For well over a year, the creek bordering my property has been eating away at my land. When I bought my home, I was told by the builders that the creek was small, with minimal water flow. Nothing to worry about. But that's far from the truth. After heavy rains or snow melt, the creek swells to a height taller than myself, becoming a powerful stream. This has caused severe erosion, carving out a steep, unstable embankment that keeps keeping worse. As a retiree, my mid-60s, my home is my secondary and my biggest investment. The erosion is making my backyard dangerous. I used to enjoy tending to my flowers and sitting outside, but now I'm afraid to go near the creek's edge because the slope is so hazardous. I worry about my safety, especially as I get older, and I'm concerned that the erosion could eventually damage my home's foundation. I brought this up with the town and the builders, but nothing has been done to address it. Now I've learned that the church planned to send its water sump pump drainage into the creek, either directly or through a retention pond. This additional water will only make the erosion worse. My land is already slipping away and I cannot afford to lose more. My daughter Carla, who lives next door, is facing the same problem. And I know other neighbors along the creek are too. We're all at risk if this plan goes forward as proposed. This isn't just my background. It's about our entire neighborhood and the health of our environment. My neighbor, Patrick Griffin, wrote to the council about how past construction removed trees, vegetation that once held the creek's banks in place. Existing drainage from homes and a stormwater sewers is already overwhelming the creek. Adding the church's drainage without proper protection could harm the creek's ecosystem and further endanger all 7 properties on Moraine Drive. We need a plan to protect our homes and preserve the creek for the future. Thank you for hearing me out. I've poured my heart into this home, hoping to enjoy my retirement and grandchildren here in peace. I'm asking for your help to ensure that the church's construction doesn't take that away from me or my neighbors. I'm ready to work with you, the church, our community, to find a solution that's fair to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Justin Teach. I'm at 10703 Moraine Drive. Point of clarification with the guy from DVG. He said ditch, and I feel that's misleading because that's the creek. And if they don't know the difference between a ditch and a creek, that's a little nerve-wracking just to start off. But I do live directly north of the land that is being considered turning into a residential development. And before we go any further, let me make one thing crystal clear. I'm not opposed to the church. What I am opposed to is a development being approved without first addressing the glaring drainage issues that have been ignored for far too long. Now, I'm not just here to oppose the project. I'm here to call out the breathtaking level of negligence that has led us to this point. But let's be honest, we all know that this hearing is more of a formality than anything else. The decision is already made, just like the man who came out to check the water main for the church last Saturday. This is just checking boxes before you all green light. Let's just be honest with that. So about the drainage problems in the area, we know that you know because we've told you over and over again. We've sent certified letters. We've emailed every single person on the council. We've received emails back from people on the council. We have reached out to the town manager over a year ago and still have yet to receive a phone call back. This is just the level of decency that residents are expecting in this town to get no help whatsoever is just incredulous at best. So let's talk about that. For 12 months, there's been nothing, not even the decency of a return phone call. Now, we did get a town meeting. You were there, and Ashley was there, and you both were wonderful and polite and pleasant. Bob, on the other hand, threw a temper tantrum like a petulant child. It was to the point, yeah, in your department, what's his name? Last name?
Bob Davis.
Bob Davis, threw a temper tantrum, and it's one that I haven't seen since my 4-year-old found out that Nickelodeon had canceled Bubble Guppies. I know that's a weird analogy, but let's be honest, it's expected out of a 4-year-old, but out of a grown man, because we're trying to find answers to get, resolve on a creek issue that's not only deteriorating our properties, but causing damage to our homes, foundations are sinking, and no one seems to care enough to actually take blame. They want to point the fingers. You guys point the fingers at McFarland, McFarland's pointing the fingers at Schilling, Schilling's pointing the fingers back at everybody else. This is absolutely ridiculous. So now here we are again. Once again, you are asking us to trust you with approving another development, another rooftop, another parking lot, more runoff, while the problems we've been begging you to fix for the last year have remained completely unresolved. So to be blunt, if you approve this development without addressing the drainage issues, you're not just ignoring us, you're actively making things worse. And that's not just careless, it's reckless, and worse yet, it's legally actionable. And there is case law about this. So let me spell this out for you. Indiana law is clear. Under Indiana Code 36-7-4-603, you are legally obligated to consider the impact of development on public safety and welfare, and that includes drainage. Furthermore, under Indiana Drainage Code 36-9-27, my neighbors and I, who are here tonight, have the right to be protected from water damage caused by negligent land use decisions. And just to be clear, ultra crystal clear, we will use those protections, and we're not going to let this slide. The courts have already made this abundantly clear. Pickett v. Brown is a great example, and there are other Indiana rulings that show when local governments knowingly allow the risk of water damage to worsen, they will be held accountable. You've run out of excuses, you've run out of time, and if you approve this project without fixing the drainage issues you've known about for the better part of a year, you will be out of compliance with your own legal obligations. So we won't let our homes be collateral damage in your mad rush to overdevelop this town. So do your job, fix the drainage, answer your phones, stop ignoring the people who actually live here, and stop pretending this hearing is anything more than a rubber stamp. Thank you.
My name's Danielle Hitterman Velasquez, and I'm the owner of 10711 Marine Drive, which is the house directly adjacent to the proposed construction. I want to make it clear that I'm completely against the proposal due to the drainage affecting my home significantly. We were made aware that our house was built on a wetland, so due to that, our foundation has sunken significantly. We were never told that we were built on a wetland, so our house has significant erosion and our yard is eroding. If this proposal moves forward, my house is in significant danger, even more so than it is now. It will significantly increase the sinking of my home and decrease the value of my home and my neighbors' homes. Again, I want to make it clear that I'm not okay with the proposal and I do not want it to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the council, I don't know if I'm doing this all properly. I'm just more worried about the value of the homes. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, how you guys.
Yeah.
Getting ready, so
My
thanks.
name's Rod Drafke, and my address is not on the side of their homes. My address is on the west side of Marine at 10688. I'm more worried about their property value going down. That's going to affect the other homes in the neighborhood if the property value goes down from this project. Not against the church. I'm all for, building up the church and everything like that, but if the original problem can get fixed, just so the value of my home don't, because I'm a border jumper. I came from Illinois, man. I don't want to go back to something like that, so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to come up and speak relative to the Grace Church proposal? Going once? Going twice? Third and final call. With that, public comment is closed for 2025-09 Grace Church. I would invite the applicant to come back up.
It's Max, by the way.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we
No,
haven't
you're
met
fine.
before, so
You're
I-
fine. Just a couple of things on that. If anything, it's going to improve drainage, because right now, if a very intense storm, let's say, and this is going to be a little bit more technical of a term, but if a 100-year storm comes in right now, it's currently flowing unrestricted into that ditch. Unrestricted into that creek. And by our design standards, the release rate for our detention pond needs to be on the 2-year storm. So basically, it's going to limit anything going into that ditch into the 2-year storm, which is a very less intense rain event. The other thing is, there's a lot of mention of the removal of trees and things like that. Now, we can't go back and fix the past, but we're not planning on removing any vegetation in that ditch, so.
All right, anyone else, questions, comments?
Can you make a comment? First of all, to the general public, we're the planning commission, not the town council, who ultimately makes the last decision. Sir, if you don't mind, I'd like for them to realize that our position is to make a recommendation, all right, to the town council. So all those things that you have could be taken to them. But our recommendation would have to sit on some of the findings of facts in order for us to move forward. And we have heard you, okay? So that the planning commission has heard you, so don't take it wrong, sir, and that's all I need to make a point of. And I don't see why, if there's any chance, they're saying, can we work together? Can you work together with the general public here on that water issue,
I mean, we certainly can, but we're adhering to all of the town standards. I mean, we're going above and beyond sometimes, because this development is planning for expansion. So the pond we're actually putting in is designed for a lot more hardscape, a lot more impervious surface than what is actually going to go in initially. Now, whether or not the full development comes to fruition, I don't know, but.
Nothing else.
Nothing else?
Nothing else.
Okay. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion for approval of primary plat. Any motion would necessarily need to reference the findings of fact.
Mr. President, before we make a motion and vote on this, could I ask our engineer to speak on everything that he reviewed for this subject, including the fact that having met with 2 of the homeowners on this drive, been out on their property and actually walked that creek with them, I asked him to ensure that he was taking extra diligent care in reviewing this to ensure that there'd be no greater impact to these residents and that creek.
Sure. Mr. Dykstra.
Well, when any engineering submittal is made for church or homes or commercial, our job as town engineer is to review it in comparison to the town's code, subdivision control ordinance. So as Max was saying, in their submittal from DVG, they had to have the correct modeling, the correct calculations, the correct design, the correct grading, and meet all these requirements, including the driveway at the entrance. So, and that had other agencies involved, like county highways. So, speaking to drainage, since that was the dominant concern, technically we call this a water course. A ditch, creek, water course, that's semantics, so it's a water course technically. This water course has a drainage area upstream of it, much greater than this church, over 300 acres drain through this creek. The church is 9.79 acres, okay? And as Max was saying, it will reduce runoff because that's what's required. When a development comes in, they have to analyze the 100-year and then restrict their release to a 2-year existing. So Right now, with the 100-year existing, or 50-year, or 25-year, pick a year, it runs off into this creek now, under existing conditions. And so that's the course of natural drainage. If it's developed, they must adhere to that. They must follow the pattern. Like if part of the site drained south, then they would have to have two ponds. One would drain portion that way, one to the north. So, they did it per code, and that's all we can require. And so they did have the proper release. There's a pipe. I think it's a water main extension that will go under the creek, and they are obtaining an approval from the Corps or IDEM to do
Yes.
that. So there's a utility permit to do such a thing. You don't disturb the channel, but it has to be restored perfect as it is. So those are very common. But the pond, the site will drain through the pond. Max is correct. It was designed for a larger build-out that is not yet occurring. And so right now, under this condition, if it's never expanded, it's over-detaining beyond what the code would require. So I don't know if that explains it.
In the plan,
Yeah.
does it have, as it sits right now, space for the water to be detained?
Yes.
So it's not just going to free flow? down
Correct. It
into
is
the
not
creek,
free flowing.
right?
It is going into a detention pond.
And does that allow for more control over what eventually gets into the creek?
Yeah, so the water will go through our storm sewer system on site, which will then route to the detention pond, and from the detention pond, there is a release structure that will release into the creek.
A simple way I've explained the way a detention pond functions is it's like a bathtub. So you turn the shower on full blast and you have a little outlet in the tub. Even with no drain plug, the tub will start to fill up water, okay, because the water coming in is faster than it goes out. So the same theory with a detention pond. These are how all detention ponds, 99% of them are designed. They take a big flush of water that's brought there by storm sewers, and most of the public, they're correct that pavement, parking lots, roofs will generate more runoff when you develop land. And that's why there's going to be a detention pond. So it collects that and then lets it out as a slow raise. So every detention pond has a control structure with a little opening that's supposed to meet that number that they've determined in their calculations. And that's how they drain. If you get a 500-year storm, maybe you've heard this. These are sort of made up, but in a sense that no one really knows, but they have numbers for them. So a pond always must have an overflow. So every pond is required to have an overflow at its high water, so not below it, it's above it. And so if there's a storm larger than the design, it will overtop, but that's how every pond functions, so. Or if the outlet malfunctions, which can happen, so.
Yeah.
Okay, again, I just want to make sure that, I don't know.
You don't
if
have to
you're
ask,
finished, that's
no.
why.
That's detention 101, so.
Let me
yeah.
ask you here, and I understand what you're saying. It's a great logic approach of what you were saying. Can you answer their questions that their erosion close to their houses, why is that happening to their?
I can't answer that question. It's.
Would this be
It's
something that could hurt them?
So, if I can jump in on a couple things, just so we're clear, the Plan Commission makes the determination on the primary plat.
Right.
Ashley, if you can you pull up the near maps on the screen, please? And for anyone who doesn't know, near maps is a time-lapse photo of the entire town. If you can zoom in a little bit.
So this is the creek as it sits as of April 16, 2025. October 18th, 2024. July 2024. April 2024. September of 23. June of 23. April of 23. If the Plan Commission would like, I could keep going back further years. But as you can see by the aerial change, there's not much by way of change in that creek in the past 2 years of aerials taken, according to this map.
We can all see the change. We can all see the change. Yeah, an aerial picture's not telling the story.
Yeah.
If the people behind me, they can all see it.
You can zoom in if you want. I don't know if it'll do anything for measurements, but.
It's running slow.
Okay.
It's running slow.
I have a question for the engineer. Can you prove erosion from aerial photos? Out of curiosity.
I don't think it was more for proof. It was just for a little bit of reference, since you brought it up.
Yeah, because it's affecting us. If you walk the property like she claims he did, which he didn't, you would see that, you know, it is drastically different than what these aerial photos suggest. Everybody can see it.
I think what's
Okay,
Even from the.
we need to maintain a little decorum. We're not just going to yell out from the audience, okay? We're trying to go through a process. I gave everybody 3 chances. Public hearing on it. Public comment on it's closed.
That's fine, but when false things are being said, I mean, let's be honest here. You guys are trying to make a determination, and if, you know, one side of the coin is being looked at and nothing else is being, you know, thought of, like, that's just disingenuous.
But again, the engineers stated that right now, as it stands today, that entire 9.7 acres flows into the creek unrestricted, unregulated. Today, when it rained, all the water just went from 109th straight back into the creek. When they build a detention pond, it's going to hold it and release it at a slower rate than it was released into the creek today, is what both of the engineers have said. So by them doing a parking lot with storm sewers and drainage and all that, they're collecting the water and gathering it and then releasing it at a rate slower than that of what it all ran across the 9.7 acres today, unrestricted, unrestrained, undiverted, undirected in the rainstorm today.
The engineer's plan sounds good on paper, but we have proof that the plan failed. We have erosion. He's not doing what it's not doing what he's saying it's doing. We have the water rising way above what it's supposed to. Right.
Because right now, the water's going in there from this 9.7 acres unrestricted. It's going to be restricted and slowed down before it enters that.
You're trying to make that pond seem like a solution to our problem. It's not. Just like his plan on paper sounds good, your plan sounds good, it's not gonna help. It's gonna make things worse.
Mr. President, may I ask that no further back and forth with the
Yeah.
audience occur for record keeping?
I think we've gone through this. Unless there's any other questions, comments from the panel, I would entertain a motion for approval of primary plat.
Prior to approval of primary plat, could we please look at the consideration of the waiver from curb and gutter at the request of Lake County off of 109th Avenue?
I did have that in my notes, and then any motion would reference the findings of fact.
I'll make a motion to allow them to get a waiver from doing curb and gutter on 109th per Lake County's recommendation
And referencing the findings of fact.
and referencing the findings of fact.
Motion by Mr. Gill, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Abernathy. We've decided that we're going to do a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Joe Gomez Daigle?
No.
John Gill?
Yes.
Justin Nestor,
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy, yes. Motion will fail due to lack of a unanimous vote. This item or the waiver will be deferred for the next month. We can now move on to the primary plat. Given that the waiver did not pass, I would recommend a deferral at this time and consider the primary plat at our July public meeting.
Do we need a motion to defer that?
Yes, please.
All
I'll
right.
make a motion to defer the primary plat to next month.
Motion by Mr. Gill to defer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Abernathy. Roll call, please.
Joe Gomez-Stagel,
Yes.
John Gill,
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy, yes. Justin Nestor.
Yes. All right, that's all for the Grace Church proposal.
Thank you very much.
Item B, 2025-11, Castle Rock Phase 3, proposed primary plat for a residential development located off of 86th Place in the northwest corner of the town of St. John along the town's boundary lines. Mr. Reddick, good evening.
Good evening. Doug Reddick with DVG, representing Andy James, the owner and developer of Castle Rock. We're here for what we call Castle Rock Phase 3, which is just north of the existing Castle Rock Phase 1. Andy's owned the property for several years. A lot of it is undevelopable, wetlands and drainage ways and so forth. But we are presenting a straight R2 subdivision where all the lots meet the R2 zoning requirement, which is 100 feet of frontage minimum and 15,000 square feet of area. A lot of the lots far exceed that due to the unusual nature of the property and the large amount of low-lying land on the property. There's an existing regional detention basin on the east side of the property that serves several, probably a couple hundred acres. So drainage-wise, we're situated pretty well. We are putting in additional detention basins because of the watershed lines, but they're small and they take care of more or less the west side of the property. We have received review comments from Robinson Engineering on the plat as well as the engineering. We consider them relatively minor, but they are loose ends that need to be tidied up, and we're aware of that. A couple of questions came about with addresses and street names, which we'd like to clean up as well. And very minor thing about the dedication of Calumet Avenue. I won't get into the details because it's kind of a technicality. So basically, we'd like to have our public hearing, hear what the public has to say, hear what the Plan Commission has to say, and then decide if it's worth pursuing tonight for a vote or possibly deferring it, depending on how you guys see fit.
All right, thank you. First off, questions, comments from the commission? From the town?
There was an engineering review letter granted or submitted Friday. I believe there were 21 plat items and a couple pages worth of review comments. And I can let Engineer Dykstra go through those.
Mr. Dykstra, please.
Yes, Ashley's correct. There were 21 plat comments, so that's just the survey, the plat of survey. It's reviewed by our surveyor. Initially, there were 51. They got reduced to 21. There's a few we would call more important, and then some are much lesser type of comments. As for the engineering plans, the rest of the submittal, including the SWIP, erosion control, and details on the plans and the plans itself, grading plan, utility plan. There was about, and some of these are comments to be noted, and so there's no response needed. I would say there was probably about 30 to 32 comments that require some kind of response, either a change in a calculation, modification to grading or adding something or making something more clear on the plans, things like that. And they cover such things as, sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer, the plans itself, the details on the plans, lighting, geotechnical, and SWIP.
Okay.
So, pretty standard. Standard items are covered in my reviews.
All right, questions, comments? If not, we'll just go ahead and open. I mean, it is noticed for the public hearing, so I think we proceed with that.
Right. I believe everything is in order for the public hearing.
Everything is ordered for the
Yeah,
public hearing.
we'll go ahead and proceed with that. I mean, we've had projects before with unresolved engineering issues not being finalized, but since we're here on that, I think we'll proceed with that, and then we'll go from there. Okay? All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and open up public comment, public hearing for 2025-11 Castle Rock Phase 3. As with before, any members of the public who'd like to come up and speak, please feel free to do so. Just need your name and address for the record. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Nancy Beer. My address is 13901 81st Avenue. My property butts up to his subdivision. I have 20 acres there. Currently, he has been flooding my 10-acre back hayfield, and I have photos for you. This is my property. There's two different photos. That was taken in 24. This is in 14. Yes, his wetlands do butt up to my back field, but with all the drainage, he's using the wetlands as a retention retention area, which is flooding over in my hayfield, and I have not been able to get to the hay, and the back part is higher. Yes, I can, but the water has taken over so much, as you can see, of my property. And I'd like to have that addressed. We have been going back and forth. I told him I would be perfectly happy with him putting a berm along the property line. He has all the dirt coming from all these buildings, and he said he can't do it. And he's been doing flooding since he started Castle Rock 1 and all the other. I would just like to have my property not flooded anymore. And with these new homes going up, it's going to go down to it. And also, he has talked about using the creek, which starts a little further down on his property, as a drain-off. In 1972, when St. John wanted to annex that property, my father and a group of men protested it. They walked the whole creek line all the way up to US 30, and there would have been 35 homes that would have been flooded out because they, at one time, wanted to put townhomes back there. And St. John lost the lawsuit. It was not annexed at the time, and they tried years later to do it, but that creek still will not hold that many more homes going up. And like I say, he is flooding my property, and that's all I want to be addressed, is the flooding of my property.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Ron Andre. I live at 8287 Calumet, I think right down the street from her. And the biggest thing is that drainage ditch there, because they just put another subdivision in Dyer. Dyer annexed a little section off of the main road there, and they put a retention pond in there, and I look at the retention pond, and it doesn't work. We still get a flood in there. And this is a ditch that was dug hundreds of years ago, Dyer Ditch. It was dug to drain all of that stuff, and it worked. I've lived there for 40 years, and it's worked until recently when they started putting those subdivisions in. When it had the natural drainage there was a pond back there. I worked at Lever Brothers, and I could get fish from Lake Michigan, and I put them in that pond for the kids. That's all gone now. So where does the water go? It goes into the ditch, and the ditch floods our yards and stuff. And I'm not in St. John. I'm in St. John Township, and I think this lady probably is too.
Yes.
But Anyway, her complaint is the same as mine. You know, something needs to be done there to get that ditch flowing more and better, and not putting another drainage pond in there that's gonna flood us more. Because this happens a lot in a year. And it affects, like other people have said here, the footings of the houses and stuff like that, because I'm only, you know, a couple or 100 feet from the ditch. And actually, I've got 3 acres there, so a lot of that ditch is running along my property. Now, I think it's probably the dividing line or something for the properties. But something needs to be done with that ditch before they can do another drainage. I mean, you're just gonna be putting water into something that isn't gonna drain. It just lays there and goes up. So, anyway, you know, this is an ongoing battle, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to come up regarding Castle Rock Phase 3?
I'm Joanne Carlin. I live at 8739 Manor House Drive, at the corner of 87th and Manor House Drive. I have a question, more or less. Is this going to connect into that new subdivision that's built up in Dyer? Does anybody know? We were told at one time that it was supposed to connect over there. I don't know if it's not going to connect over there.
He's saying no, but he can come up, Mr. Reddy can come back up and further explain that. I want to give you a chance to talk. Go ahead and talk, but
Well,
he's taking notes. And
My
he'll come up and
concern
address it.
is, coming down Sheffield Avenue and coming into Castle Rock, we have to go all the way down to 93rd. You know, sometimes with the big traffic jam at 91st and 93rd, onto 93rd, come to, back up through Edgewood into Castle Rock, where I could see this, if it connects into Dyer, being a shortcut for a lot of people who live in the Kilconny Estates, Castle Rock Estates. Being at that corner, there's no stop sign coming from Edgewood all the way into Tapper and 87th Avenue, and we got a lot of traffic that comes flying through there. We've requested 4-way stops, but that hasn't gone anywhere. So I'm just concerned about how much more traffic might be flowing through our subdivision in that intersection there that's very busy, and, you know, with kids in the neighborhood and all that. That's my concern.
Okay. Based on Mr. Reddy shaking his head no, I don't believe it's going to connect, but I'll let him come back up and elaborate on that when he's given the opportunity. Anyone else who'd like to come up?
Hi, me again. Do I have to say my name and?
Just so the record's clean, please. do.
Okay, Justin Teach, 10703 Moraine Drive, St. John, well, Dyer mailing address, weird. Just want to point out, in case it's lost on anybody else, that, you know, 2 separate issues today, 2 separate drainage issues, and a town that's just kind of green lighting it all through. So just want to point that out, that it's just kind of weird that it seems to be a systemic issue that you all just want to rubber stamp and, you know, let it go. So
I can just make it clear, we did not rubber stamp the last one, though, contrary to what you're alleging.
I will give you credit where credit is due. I was duly surprised.
The point of the public hearing is for us to listen to members of the public who want to come in and speak against, and you, for lack of a better legal term, you won today, at least for now. So,
Well, I mean,
I don't think it's appropriate to come up to the podium and take shots at us. I'm just going to say that, okay? All right, anyone else from the public who'd like to come up?
Hi, my name's Dale Beauvais, and I live at 10379 81st Avenue. Been there about 10 years, and the back of my property will butt up close to that Castle Rock. But I've been there 10 years, and I can see her property from my property. And 10 years ago, it didn't flood when I first moved in. And it pretty much remains flooded all year round now. So I can attest to the fact that there's a lot of water back there that didn't used to be. And I can imagine if they keep building back there, that water's got to go somewhere. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
Hi, my name is Nathan Balma. I live at 8467 Torrance Street in unincorporated St. John, Dyer mailing address. I guess I have a concern, and that is that we hear rumors from developers and current developing landowners about what they're going to do on that property. It's our backyard. We've taken an immense amount of work to clean up that wetland and make sure it's truly a wetland. And since we moved in 2001, we built there. And it floods now pretty consistently. That wetland is truly a wetland. And there are two stages of that, one on the lower side in Dyer, and then one on the upper side in St. John, on your side of the border. My concern is what is going to be done by this developer to protect those wetlands, make sure that they're not infringed upon. We have a lot of really cool, unique migratory birds that come and visit that wetland, and we'd like to see that not get ruined. And too many times we've seen developers do the tit for tat where they will take the carbon credit game and move a wetland or fill in a wetland and then rebuild one somewhere else and call it even Steven. And we just don't want to see that happen. So we'd like to know a little bit more about what's going to happen.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, anyone else, public comment?
Mary Jo Kniezer, 8274 Columbia Dyer. I'm at the northwest corner of all that. Something people are not seeing on that is there are pipelines running through there. So they cannot build on that. And you can see it a little bit better on the thing, but there are easements that they cannot get that close up to it. And this morning, I happened to talk to somebody representing the developer over there, and they're telling me that they're putting a cul-de-sac at the end of that street in the very northwest quarter, and that they do not intend to connect. However, I have a road stub at the end of my street that lines up like this, that you built, and you're not allowed to go into there because it's not within your town limits, but you put your road stub there anyway, so I take that with, a grain of salt. So that is something to notice, is that they cannot build there.
All right, thank you. Anyone else who'd like to come up? Second call. Third and final call with that. Public comment for the public hearing for Castle Rock Phase 3 is now closed. Mr. Reddick, if you'd like to come back up.
Okay. The remonstrator has brought up some good points. I could elaborate more. Might be best, could you do near maps again? Kind of show the big picture of what's going on in the area. We do, I will say, we do acknowledge that we have wetlands on our property. We actually have two different kinds of wetlands. Of course, we had a formal wetland delineation done, I think it's about 3 years ago. We have wetlands that are governed by the Army Corps of Engineers, federally regulated wetlands, and we have wetlands that are regulated by IDEM, which are state-regulated wetlands. We have both kinds. We also have some exempt wetlands. So we spent a lot of time looking at wetlands on this property. Our intention is to not disturb the wetlands, to answer the one gentleman's questions. We want to leave them alone. The federally regulated wetlands follow the ditch on the west side of the property. Our intention is to leave them exactly the way they are. They function very well. Right in the middle of the screen, you see a pond. That is a large wetland on this property. It also extends onto Mrs. Beer's property, and that's why she has water on her property. That is a naturally occurring, low-lying, IDEM classified wetland. We're going to leave it alone. It's also functioning as a regional detention basin for the town of St. John. Most of the homes to the south of that, about half of those drain into that big pond / wetland, and just east there's the other one that's more green. Those are two large, part of our stormwater study looked at all this. There's hundreds of acres that drain into those two ponds, which ultimately drain to Dyer Ditch. So those were built years and years ago, before I was doing this, but they are functioning as regional detention basins. So we're leaving those alone. We've studied them. They rise and lower with the rain events. The big one that looks wet there, we are aware it is holding water. And actually my client remembers when that was farmed, when he was a kid. He grew up in the area. We believe there's a drain tile that used to drain that area that is no longer functioning. We've looked for it, haven't been able to really find it, but we're part of what we're doing with this subdivision is we're going to replace the structure, the outfall structure for that area to better regulate what's going on in there. We're still going to have the storage, and it only stores 2 or 3 feet of water, but it's a lot of water because it's a big area. I want to say we can store 50 or 60 acre feet of water in that basin. All that's leave it all that the same, because most of the water goes to that basin. Most of the water from the original Castle Rock. A lot of the water from this phase of Castle Rock goes west to the ditch, and it does not go into the big pond. So we're placing 3 small detention basins strategically in the rear yards that are on the west side of this proposed street to handle the drainage that goes to the west. Thank you, Ashley. There's a small one right there, another small one just north of there. Again, that's right on the edge of existing wetlands. So again, we're not disturbing the wetlands. We will be detaining our water. Anything off the roads and the front yards will go through the retention ponds. You can see all 3 of them on that drawing. One there, another one to the north. Just south of the north one is a wetland area, and that's what there's an easement there to delineate that. So there is a existing wetland that bleeds over into the property to the west, which Whispering Woods. Large wetland, we're leaving it alone. We understand the value of the wetlands. We understand the wildlife associated with such. So our intention is to leave the wetlands untouched. We have been asked to put a sanitary sewer in from the cul-de-sac to the east over on Duckland Court. This was decided a long time ago. There's a temporary lift station there. So we do have to put a sanitary sewer from there to the west to our property because we are putting in a new, larger lift station. We will need a permit to do that because we're going through the wetlands. We're fully aware of that. The other person brought up, there's 3 pipelines that run through the property, which makes this quite challenging. We are dealing with the pipelines. We are in contact with the pipelines. Sometimes it's somewhat challenging, but nonetheless, we are crossing 3 different pipelines with our utilities, our water main, our storm sewer probably doesn't cross, sanitary sewer crosses, and of course the roadways cross. But we're aware of that. We follow their rules, and typically they play along. So we're aware of the pipelines, and some of those areas, matter of fact, the pipelines run right through the wetland. You can see the dashed lines that run at a diagonal. Those are the pipelines. So regarding flooding, we have wetlands on both sides of our property that do flood. That's what wetlands do. We've studied the big pond. We can actually hold all the water that the model calls for and still not disturb anybody, other than the fact that it does creep up into the Beers property because the contours are such that we can't avoid that. It's not Mr. James sending his water there. It's just a low-lying wetland type area. Years ago, again, before I was aware of it, I was told it was farmed, and it probably was. When the drain tiles were functioning, you could farm it. Now, it's just been too many years. Drain tiles don't work for, forever. Regarding the connection to Dyer, that drawing there shows Whispering Woods. There's a new subdivision that I was also involved with. So Whispering Woods is in unincorporated Lake County. Obviously, Castle Rock is in St. John. To the north is also unincorporated Lake County, but to the west, just west of that pond that you're seeing there, is the town of Dyer. And so the town of Dyer, the town of St. John, and unincorporated Lake County all come together at the northwest corner of this subdivision. We designed the Meadowbrook subdivision in Dyer a couple years ago. It's the first phase is built. There's some homes going in there. There was discussion early on of connecting the 2 subdivisions, Castle Rock to Meadowbrook. Neither developer wants that to happen, and Dyer Ditch is the stumbling block, if you will. It's very expensive to put in a bridge, which was what it would take, and neither developer can afford to do so, so they don't want it to connect. Our drawings for Meadowbrook stop way short of their east line. It is true that in Whispering Woods, if you want to zoom in, is that Torrance? I can never remember. So that street, the right-of-way is dedicated for that, well, partly dedicated, and it shows up very clearly there in the GIS. So they platted some right-of-way there to to the north, and then they platted a right-of-way going east to what would be Calumet Avenue extended. We've been asked to dedicate our 30-foot for Calumet Avenue right in the very northwest corner of our subdivision. Thank you. Those right-of-way lines don't exist right now. Some of them do, some of them don't. It's kind of a flaw in the system. Ashley's looked into it, I've looked into it. So there's, I guess, at one time, the thought of Calumet Avenue connecting and going to the south was a good idea. But when you have all the wetlands and you have the ditch, realistically, it's not happening anytime soon. So what we've been asked to do, which is typical, is we will dedicate our 30 feet for Calumet Avenue. The other part is partially dedicated, and we're willing to dedicate it on the Dyer side too when we get to that phase of that subdivision. In the event that road, maybe it's the town, I mean, right now it's unincorporated Lake County, it's Dyer, it's St. John. Who's going to build the road? I don't know the answer to that. Probably nobody. But we do not intend to connect the subdivisions at this time. Pipelines, wetlands, flooding, Meadowbrook. I think I've addressed most of the comments. If I missed any, please let me know.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the commission? Here's where I struggle, because I gave everybody a chance to talk.
I just have one comment I wanted to point out, because this is the area view. If you could go a little upwards, there is, when this was tied in, the other way, because this never used to be a wetland, because we farmed it. I've lived there for over 60 years. But in this area back over here where the trees are, there is this giant sewer tile where all the water from these Kilkenny and Lancers drains out into it. I have brought it to the attention of the town board years ago. I walked a guy out there because it doesn't show up on any maps, and nobody knows where it is. Well, I walked around there. It's kind of like buried in the woods, but all the water from here goes to there, which naturally flows to this. Nobody knows where this giant culvert comes from, but all the water, when you get heavy rains, is draining all these homes. And in Kilkenny and Highlands, there was supposed to be a retention pond put in, which was plotted out originally with the flags, and then miraculously it turned into another home. So there's a little creek-like or ditch, I would say, that also flows into that area, which he is calling wetland, which never was a wetland. And I have been living there over 60 years.
Okay. Thank you.
She's absolutely right. There's a 48-inch storm sewer. I've seen it. It drains the better part of those couple hundred houses to the south. Again, into that low-lying area, which is functioning as a regional detention basin. And it's also been classified as a wetland. So it's both. The wetland rules didn't exist when that sewer went in the ground. That's what's going on now. And now we're very strict on the wetland delineations. So at the time, it was low-lying. Send the water over there. It functions as a detention basin. It still does to this day. I can't change it. That was already there. But there absolutely is, it was constructed, I can't remember all the names of the subdivisions, but the one to the east and to the south of Castle Rock, Kilkenny possibly, and others. Is Edgewood to the south too? All that drains there. And then
High Ridge, Edgewood.
yeah, and then to the east, that other regional detention basin, it drains through Declan Court, Kilkenny Highlands. There's another waterway, because we did that one too, and all that water ends up into this wetland, which ends up in Dyer Ditch.
They're calling it a wetland, but it's a man-made natural wetland is what it is, because they put all the water there because it was low-lying, and that's what is causing my property to flood over. And I just wanted to put a berm to keep the wetland or the low-lying area on his side.
Thank you. All right, with that, any other questions, comments? Mr. Dykes, do you have anything to add?
Nope.
Okay.
Doug, who classified that a wetland?
We hire Gary R. Weber, and we have the report to back.
Looked over by.
We sent it to the Army Corps of Engineers. They get first crack at jurisdictional determination, and they took everything on the west side associated with Dyer Ditch or the beginning of Dyer Ditch. And then whatever they don't take falls under IDEM's regulations. We have a letter from IDEM stating which wetlands are jurisdictional to them and which ones are jurisdictional to the Army Corps. That's just part of doing a subdivision design anymore.
Can I ask you a question? Why is it that you can't build that berm, that she's asking a divider so that her property doesn't get, said no to her?
I can't speak for my client, because he said he can't do it. We can physically build a berm there. We would need permission to fill in a wetland to do that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying it's costly and it would have to be permitted. But I will not say it can't be done. It certainly can be done with proper permitting.
He tried to buy the property and I wouldn't sell it. And I just said I wanted a berm.
Okay.
I'd be happy.
All right. I got to stop the back and forth. We'll be here all night. So, all right, questions, comments from the panel? Nothing else? All right, at this point, it's up for proposed primary plat. Would entertain a motion to approve that.
Mr. President, if we can have it deferred until some of the...
Resolution of the engineering stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll do entertain a motion to defer to the July meeting.
I'll make a motion to defer Castle Rock Phase 3 to the July meeting.
Motion by Mr. Gill, second by Mr. Gomes-Segal. Roll call, please.
Joe Gomez-Stagel?
Yes.
John Gill?
Yes.
Justin Nestor?
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll come back and address the other issues. Thank you. Agenda item number 6, old and new business. Item A, 2024-12, Gates of St. John Units 29 through 31. Proposed final plat for the Gates of St. John Units 29 through 31. Mr. Kell, good evening.
Justin, if I could, I'd like to just hand everybody a...
You love your papers, don't you? You carry this folder around because of your papers.
At least then everybody has to I feel bad if I come to a meeting without paper.
Ooh, it's like 5 pages.
3 pages.
3, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Can I have some paper? I mean, you made all these extra ones.
Well, I did.
Because I can't see the screen. I still like paper.
Hello, everybody. So, obviously, we're asking for 29A, 29B, and 30B. I'll give it a minute. It's fine.
Thank you.
So this is the same, these are the same units that were discussed at the last couple meetings. We are platting 2 of the big commercial lots and 1 of the residential lots. We have a lot of interest in the commercial. As a matter of fact, they are completing their site plans right now, which I don't have, and I will come back in front of you for a request for site plan approval when they get done. So
And blessed by the town council?
the site plans now come to you guys.
Okay.
I've shown the draft site plans like I did to you, to the town council. They're like, great, looks good. So I still have to go to the plan commission and get site plan approval. So that was part of the process that we agreed to. What we're requesting tonight is secondary plat approval of 29A, 29B, and 30B, contingent upon the issuance of the letters of credit. There's going to be a performance letter of credit that's going to be required. So in a motion, it would be proper to withhold signatures from the Mylars until such time as we post the required performance letter of credit. And you guys may have noticed, they're putting in the street right now. Some people ask me if we're building a runway. Well, it's 60 feet wide to accommodate all the parking for the downtown. So we were running 33 trucks today. And we are getting that done as fast as we possibly can because there's a lot of interest to get moving on some of the commercial businesses. So with that being said, I would just like to request the secondary plat approval of this, contingent upon posting the performance letter or performance bond that's going to be required. And then in the motion can be withhold the signatures on the Mylar until such time as that's been satisfied.
All right, questions, comments?
We do have an engineering review letter that pretty much outlines exactly what Steve is asking for. Everything is in order for the final plat, just withholding signatures until such time that a performance amount is provided to the town, whether that be letter of credit, bond, or escrow. Any of those options are allowed by the subdivision control ordinance.
All right, with those conditions attached, is there a motion?
Make a motion to grant final plat for the Gates St. John, units 29 to 31, contingent on the performance bond being posted and withholding signatures until all the improvements are completed.
Or until the
Motion by
bond's
Mr. Gill. Motion by Mr. Gill, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Abernathy. Can we get the roll call, please?
Joe Gomez-Daigle?
Yes.
John Gill?
Yes.
Justin Nestor?
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy, yes.
All right. We're all set.
Thank you very much, and you guys have a nice 4th of July. I'm not sure if I'll be back before then.
You too. Item B, 2025-12, Scooters Edition, Grit and Grind LLC requesting a waiver from the requirements of Article 21A through 33, Sub D1 and 2 of the town subdivision control ordinance for the installation of sidewalk on Scooters Edition.
Good evening. Usually James.
Mr. Rudd, sitting in Mr. Huss's
Yeah, I'm
place.
pinch hitting for James Huss tonight. He's on vacation. Scooters was recently built, and I don't know all the details. Maybe Ashley can help me a little bit, but I'll just read what James prepared here. So regarding scooters in the sidewalk, Grit and Grind LLC is requesting a waiver from the requirements of Article 21A-33D, Sections 1 and 2 of the town subdivision control ordinance, which states a concrete sidewalk shall be installed on both sides of all streets within the subdivision unless the Plan Commission rules otherwise. Wider than standard sidewalks may be required by the Plan Commission in the vicinity of schools, commercial areas, and other places of public assemblage, and the Plan Commission may require the construction of sidewalks in locations other than required under the preceding provisions of this chapter if such walks are necessary, in their opinion, for the safe and adequate pedestrian circulation. 8-foot wide sidewalks shall be required along town streets with a right-of-way width of 80 feet and above. While recognizing the intent of the ordinance, the development requests a waiver of this requirement for the following reasons. US 41, Wicker Avenue, right-of-way lines are extremely inconsistent on the east side, a condition that exists plainly from 93rd Avenue to 77th Avenue. Installation of the required sidewalk immediately off of or immediately on private property would conflict with existing parking areas of developments as close as just 2 lots away from the subject parcel. The development consists of only 1.7% of 1.6-mile segment of US 41, which has no sidewalk on its eastern frontage. Again, there's about 1.6 miles of Highway 41. This frontage is 1.7% of that, and there is no sidewalks anywhere on that side of the road in that area. Other developments within that same segment have foregone sidewalk installation in the past 10 years, maybe a little bit longer than that, specifically Myers Addition, Unit 3, Block 1, Lot A and B, near the northeast corner of Lake Central Drive and Wicker Avenue. Only 2 pedestrian crossings exist across US 41 in this roadway segment, Lake Central Drive and 85th Avenue, encouraging additional pedestrian access through an incomplete pedestrian network with limited safe crossing locations may present safety concerns. While unrelated to this waiver request, this development has compensated the town over $25,000 for a fee that was repealed less than 6 months after this project initiated construction. The petition appreciates the Commissioner's consideration of the above factors when evaluating this waiver request. I couldn't have said it any better, James.
Duly noted. All right, questions, comments? I know we talked about this one at the study session last time.
We did, and then in addition, James did include a couple of, sorry, the computer's being temperamental tonight. Aerials of the area that Scooters is located. Here's Scooters. Here's the development that Doug just talked about, the Myers Plaza.
Mhm.
And then here's where there is that crosswalk with Lake Shore, and on, you can see on Lake Central on the north side, it's there. There's kind of a weird apron, but no sidewalk here, which goes down to the Scooters property.
It doesn't make sense to put a sidewalk in to go to nowhere. That's kind of my thought process.
And it's a very little bit of frontage.
Yeah, and it almost, my concern is it almost encourages people to try to treat it like a sidewalk when there's no other
Yeah.
safe sidewalks to the north or south of there. So, okay, this is kind of my thoughts on it. Yeah, I would entertain a motion. I'd
Make a motion to grant Scooters Edition a sidewalk waiver from putting the 8-foot sidewalk on their frontage on 41.
Motion by Mr. Gill, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Abernathy. Can we get roll call, please?
Joe Gomez-Stagel?
Yes.
John Gill?
Yes.
Justin Nestor?
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Item C, performance letter of credit extension. Extend the performance letter of credit for the Astoria subdivision to August 18, 2026.
So the Astoria Performance Letter of Credit that was posted on behalf of Lennar is coming up for expiration on August 18, 2026. In order to get ahead of that expiration, they sent a letter of credit requesting an extension to August 18, 2026. They are not requesting any reduction to the original posted amount, which was over $6 million. So they're just requesting to extend it for an additional year in full. Any motion should be phrased in a way to recommend approval of the extension to the town council.
I'll make a motion to recommend that the town council extend the performance letter of credit for the Astoria subdivision to August 18th, 2026.
Motion by Mr. Gill, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gomez-Stagel. Roll call, please.
Joe Gomez-Stagel?
Yes.
John Gill?
Yes.
Justin Nestor?
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy, yes.
All right. Item 7, requests to publish. 7A is 2024-25 Shepherd's Edition. Request to publish for the July 16th public meeting for proposed primary plat for a 2-lot subdivision located at 8877 Patterson Street, St. John, Indiana.
So this was at our last study session. They are looking to be on the July 16th public meeting, similar to other requests to publishes in the past, just the formality.
Okay. Is there a motion for the request to publish?
I make a motion to approve the request to publish for 2024-25 Shepherd's Edition.
Motion by Ms. Abernathy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gill. Roll call, please.
Joe Gomez-Stagel?
Yes.
John Gill?
Yes.
Justin Nestor?
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy? Yes.
Item B, 2025-14 Boyer and 9301 Corner LLC request to publish for the July 16th public meeting for a rezone from C2 to PUD for a 2-lot subdivision located at the southeast corner of Wicker Avenue and 93rd Avenue. Commonly addressed as 9301 Wicker Avenue, 9321 Wicker Avenue, and 11131 West 93rd. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Bruce Boyer of Boyer Properties, and we're here tonight to introduce a redevelopment project for the southeast corner of Wicker and 93rd. The property is currently occupied by the 2-story office building occupied by Avgo Restaurant, and a vacant small dental office that was, before that, even a small bank building right at the corner. What we'd like to do is create a new two-lot subdivision there and a planned unit development to allow for the construction of a two-story Wintrust Financial Bank building. We'll be demolishing the property on the corner. The Wintrust is actually a holding company. The bank will be Old Plank Community Bank. And so we'd like to introduce the project. It'll involve reworking a lot of the access and parking on the existing office building, as well as creating this new lot for the bank building. Our intention is to relocate the driveway off of 93rd as far east as we possibly can, as well as create a new right-in, right-out access point for the bank on 41 there. So we'd like to be back before the study session, the next meeting, and then publish for a public hearing in July.
The intent is just to put a bank
Yes.
on the corner.
Yes, there will be we're going to tear down the existing building,
The old dental office.
the old dental office, and then the new bank is set back quite a bit off of 41 and off of 93rd. It'll be a two-story, approximately 5,000 square foot bank, community bank, as well as an office facility for Wintrust Financial.
Okay. And that would be a request published just on the rezone, correct?
Rezone and primary plat, because they will be replatting it to the two-lot sub. So if you look on the screen, this is kind of an idea of how they plan on demolishing and redoing. So here's that existing building that's now going to be gone. The proposed bank site's going to be here. They're going to realign the parking, move the parking and everything off of both 93rd and 41. Realign this driveway here, cutting it down all the access and realigning parking back here as well. Just in general, cleaning up and more straightening up the site of it. So it would be a request to publish for both a rezone as well as a primary plat.
Got it. Questions, comments? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant approval to publish for rezone and site plan, or primary plat.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gill, second by Mr. Gomstagel. Roll call, please.
Joe Gomez-Stagel?
Yes.
John Gill?
Yes.
Justin Nestor?
Yes.
Ashley Abernathy, yes.
Thank you very much.
Be back to study session. Thank you. Agenda item 8, public comment. I'm going to move on really quick. Adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.